Welcome back. RawMikeRichards.com with Dave Bastel. Watching here, www.rawmikeRichards.com, courtesy of YouTube, our friends at Henry's Cameras. You'll also notice today, slightly different and exciting, sexy angles. That we've improved upon, Dave, every day.
Well, everything's a little bit of a tinkering, right? You kind of go in there, you start fixing the car, and then you go, wait a second, I want to do this, and then I'm going to do this as well. So
every day, a new little twist.
Good feedback from yesterday's show, by the way. Well done. Thanks for everybody for writing in. A lot of tweets, a lot of texts as well. So thank you for that. We'll continue to deliver.
Yeah, tons of that. And a shout out to all those that want to get a hold of us on Twitter. So mine is Raw Mike Richards, TSN, and
at David Bastel.
At David Bastel. It's good to keep things simple.
It is. You know what? Speaking of shout outs and stuff like that, a buddy of ours, Mike McMahon, who's a huge fan of the show dating back for years, he might be taking us up on this come to our event procedure that you were talking about yesterday, where, you know what, we may show up at a golf event, a charity, MC something. So we'll get back to him on that. We'll see if the schedule actually jives. I'm not sure if we can work it out, but he's already extended the invite, so to speak.
Yeah, we're certainly going to do the best we can. Dave and myself will be up at Hockley Valley in July for Adrian. Jay Barker, also another great listener and now viewer. So there is something for Adrian that we're doing up in July, and we'll get into that story a little bit later on. But I'm looking forward to that simply because, you know, it's a heartfelt story about some of the difficulties that can happen when you're a young parent. What can happen to your children? Dave, you've been through it. You have two young ones. A lot of you listening here today know that the worst thing that you can think about is anything that would happen to your children. And, here in Toronto where you have sick kids, but I know across not only Canada but the United States, there are facilities that, you don't think about a whole bunch. It's not sometimes top of mind till it happens to someone in your family or, God forbid, your own children. And then it becomes literally a lifeline. So if we can get out and do something where we can help out with that, Dave and I are certainly more than happy to at least entertain, and wherever it is. I mean, again, this is a new project for us, so therefore the destinations, I mean, they're all over the place. So we hope that we can, if we can do it, we certainly would be there and
we're kind of bound to North America, though. Is that fair? No, you think?
Like, for instance, if Czech models, supermodels, were having difficulties walking, or
you're okay with going to the Czech Republic?
Yeah,
we'll go to Prague.
For God's sakes, Prague! The phone lines are open. I don't know why you're not calling. Hungary, I think.
Shout out to Prague.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I think Rio. If on the beaches of Rio, people need help with their back. I mean, this is where we are. So we're absolutely going to do that. And again, we're still checking out. Hopefully, be down in Chicago in June, possibly Vegas as well. And you have to think of the star-studded lineup that you're going to see in Las Vegas. And hey, Vegas, baby, what do you expect? But look at the names that are going to show up. And here's the weird thing about it. If you start looking at the NHL awards, 2017, and we are gamblers, we're degenerates. The names that will show up on some of these awards, if you were to make a bet from now for the next
10 years?
10 years.
I think 10 is fine. Because I think I know where you're going with this.
How many of those names are going to continue to show up on those ballots?
Oh, there's a pile of them.
If not win the actual hardware, Dave.
See, and I know we're going to get into our predictions a little bit later on in the show, but that's one of the things I want to see, and we're talking about McDavid Crosby. Crosby is not finished yet, but there's obviously more length to Connor McDavid's career, and Connor McDavid is a guy we're going to be seeing on the ballot for the next 10-plus years. And that's going to be awesome, no matter where he plays. I know Edmonton, you want him to stay. I don't know if that's happening. I'm just saying. But
start the crying now, Edmonton.
but nonetheless, it's one of those things where McDavid's going to be there, Matthews is going to be there, Liney's going to be there, and we're seeing some of these guys, especially the last two, on this ballot for the first time because of the Calder Trophy, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
If you're looking at, again, this gets back to our conversation yesterday about destinations. Edmonton is a tough sell. I mean, I go back to when, who'd they take up in the plane? Taylor Hall. They take Taylor Hall up in the plane, and they fly over Edmonton. See what awaits in front of you. And he must be looking down from the plane going, I don't see anything. What? Well, what's so? Where's the city? Is that what? It's something smells weird. Like I think that, you know, in trying to entice a big star. I mean, we talk about in other sports. You talk about the NBA, NFL. Where's the guy going to go? If you're Edmonton, which is basically the population's 1 million.
Yeah.
You're in northern Alberta.
Yeah, just below that. That's right.
Like just north of Edmonton, they're technically, and it's tundra. Like there's actually tundra. Like I only know that from what? The horrible scholastic record I have of not going to school, but I remember tundra. Tundra's like where, you know, you're chewing on fat and picking berries to live.
It's a little north of.
This is
Toronto.
not.
It's
good,
a little
Dave.
more than north.
I mean, the fact that they got Gretzky, but at the end of the day,
right?
marries Janet, goes to L.A. A little bit of a step up.
You think?
I'm just saying. So Connor McDavid, if you're in a smaller market, depending on, you know, his love of chewing on whale blubber and select berries and nuts that you find on the ground.
They don't quite do that in Edmonton.
North of St. Albert. It's true that I don't know how long guys actually want to stay in towns like that. And I think it's, you know, I look at sort of the opposite feel in the NBA. Since the All-Star game was held in Toronto and the success that they've had with Dwayne Casey and Masai, Toronto now is a bit of a destination. It's not I'm not going to Canada to play. I think that's gone, Dave. I think that's dead.
Toronto, market-wise, is bigger than 3/4 of the NBA market-wise, where the cities are located and the teams are located in those cities. So it's almost like, well, if you don't like Toronto, you probably don't like, say, Chicago. You know, Toronto's probably a smaller version of it. I'm not going to put that in the New York, but you know, you kind of sit there and you go, okay, well, you have your LA teams, you have your New York teams, you have your Chicago teams, and then you're kind of getting into the realm of, and we're talking size here, your Bostons, your Washingtons, as far as what you can and can't do in a city and so forth. Toronto's very metropolitan compared to a lot of what the NBA has to offer, and I think people are figuring it out.
I think you can call it a world city.
I think
again,
so.
It's just not because we're broadcasting here. I'm just looking at what you call world cities. Now, it's not in the same category as New York. New York is a world city. London is a world city. Paris is a world city. You know, some people will call Milan is a world city. Hey, a lot of these places you've been covering the Olympics.
Yep.
Is Toronto truly in that category?
Yes.
They are. Okay.
Yes. Now, when you're talking Olympics, don't for a second, Toronto, if you're listening here in Toronto, don't wish for the Olympics in this city.
Don't do it, man.
Because your kids will be paying for it, and you only see examples of it probably in every single destination that the Olympics have gone through, because they go in there, they're kind of like a bull in a china shop for 2.5, 3 weeks, and then you're cleaning it up for years. Just look at Montreal in 1976.
Look at Greece. It pounded the entire country.
Yes.
And guess what? I don't know if they ever recover. Ever.
It's a good example. And what we're seeing in Brazil right now, too, some of the after stories of Brazil, how a bankrupt country even fell further into the hole because of what they wanted and the greed of the IOC and a couple business opportunities, and this would be nice. The Olympics are awesome. I love the Olympics. Like you said, I
like them on TV,
yes,
and not in my town.
Exactly.
Look, the traffic becomes a nightmare. And look, we had the was it the Pan Am Games?
Yep.
Did you enjoy that? Look,
well, people had a good time. That's where this conversation of Olympics came up. It's like, hey, we did this. It's like, wait a second.
It dwarfs. And
this is a big difference.
And look, some of those countries that showed up, you know, so they had it in the Rogers Center.
Yes.
They're like, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, the island of
name it. Yeah.
Machach. And it's like, and then it'd be like, mole, mole, mole. And there'd be like, two guys. And one of them's in like archery.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, I
know that was a big play-by-play thing for you. It was
Yeah.
a cash cow for years.
It was very good to me.
But seriously, that you can't compare when some of these countries come out that really bring their A athletes.
Yes.
Well, the U.S. should Russia be in it if they're allowed at this point? Oh, and by the way, speaking of Russian athletes, we potentially in the next couple of weeks there is a huge festival called Hot Docs. So it's the big documentaries.
Okay.
So that means you go through competitions like Sundance, which is absolutely enormous in that world. We're going to have someone on who's produced a documentary called Icarus. Icarus is a deep investigation into the steroid use and sort of its manifestation amongst, socially, what you saw in Russia, the cover-up by the Putin government. Just, it is so good that it won Sundance. Dave will be here, another David. David will be here along with some of those that, and we hope to have them in studio, talking about just why they did that. Because the question is, when you hear about cheating in international events and international teams, so national teams, are you upset? Does it bother you when you hear that you believe that in the 100 meters that, some are dirty and some are not? Do we believe now at all, when you watch a 100 meter semifinal, do we think that it's 100% clean?
No.
So if it's not, why then are we even interested in finding out about those countries that literally have a culture of cheating and continue to do so? It's one of the questions that we're going to ask Dave when he comes in here. But it is so good, as I said, it won Sundance. It's going to be, I believe, on Netflix in May.
That's very cool.
No, so it's going to be like one of the documentaries of 2016, 2017.
What is it called again?
Icarus.
Okay.
Icarus. So we look forward to having that, and again, some of the filmmakers that have produced some of these documentaries, we might have them in studio that week, because I find that stuff to be fascinating, because these are not Hollywood blockbusters. A lot of these guys go on to make those kinds of movies.
Yep.
But we will certainly get them when they are available. Looking at last night in the NBA, Golden State. That wasn't even and this is the one thing about the NBA playoffs. There are some that are engaging, and sometimes for all the wrong reasons. Golden State, Portland was almost a waste of time. Being a guy that lived in Eugene, Oregon, and watching a Portland team with Bill Walton actually win a championship, looking at what has happened since that time, Golden State still continues to look like the class of the league. 128-103 was the final. That wasn't even close. Atlanta ties it up with Washington 2-2, but those teams in the East, I think, are both freak shows anyway.
They are.
So that doesn't
I look for
surprise me.
Washington to win that series, but yeah, right
And they
now.
were favored going into it.
They were.
But you going to lay a lot of money on that series? I know
No.
I would not. And Toronto shows up, but more importantly, they lead 3-2. Game sixes for the Raps are not necessarily their friends. But I would say this, Norman Powell, who has been overlooked since he played at UCLA, probably even when Ben Howland was back as their coach. He was a Milwaukee draft pick at one point. That was the Gravis Vasquez trade where he comes over.
Gotcha.
So he had to play for the 905ers. He spent time with the D-League. But the one thing that he did do was never give up on himself. If it wasn't for Norm Powell last night, I mean, they absolutely hammered Milwaukee, but he was their star. It wasn't DeMar DeRozan, and Kyle Lowry, who is having back issues, didn't even take part into the shoot-around, was actually lying down on the floor with a towel. His back is a huge issue, has difficulty sitting, sleeping.
He was watching the game on his back on the scoreboard because he couldn't sit up straight.
Because sitting, if you've got back issues, you know that sitting sometimes isn't your friend. In fact, it might be easier for him to play than it is actually lying down or sitting. But still, when you think the longevity of how you've got to win in the NBA, especially at this time of year, having those kinds of issues is just not going to help.
Yeah, it's brutal. Ever since the injury after that All-Star break where he goes to the All-Star game, he does the little shootout and competition and he stinks in it, and then all of a sudden it's revealed that he has that injury, and it's like, oh, great. So, they've made the right moves. What I like about this team and what they did in last night's game is a complete dominance and almost a shutdown of a team that basically did this to them a couple games earlier. I'll be very curious to see if they can do it 3 in a row, because the Raptors have never won 3 playoff games in a row. Now, if they go to Milwaukee and win, that tells me there is a little bit of a turning point with this team. And then it sets up nicely for Cleveland, which I don't think is going to be a sweep or a 5-game series either. I think that's going to go a little closer than what some people think. But, we know what's on the other side and who wears number 23 on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
The one thing about the NBA that sometimes is, at least for me, tougher to stomach, it's probably why I like collegiate sports so much, is you look at some of these series, and it plays out so differently. Like the NBA is just played so differently than the same sport at a different level. So if you're watching NCAA basketball, it is really difficult to make even strategic comparisons to how the game is played in the NBA, which is why when you see, like, for instance, the first game, it's Memphis and San Antonio wins the first game by, was it 100 points?
Something like that.
Like, it's not even, it's embarrassing. It's somehow like they played a junior high team, and now the series is tied? Like, how do you even, in any other sport, if it's that bad, if I say I watched a football game, and the final score, you lost by 57 points. I'm hard-pressed to think, look, in the CFL, they did actually have 2-game playoffs. I'm not thinking they're making up the 57 points in the next game. You may close it down to like 21, but you're not winning if you lose by 57
If you lose by
points.
that much, yeah.
The series is tied.
It makes no sense.
The series is tied. That's the thing I don't get about the NBA, and sometimes don't necessarily enjoy. I mean, if I'm looking at it in terms of engagement, what series right now am I engaged by? Like, is there a series right now in the NBA that you have to watch? Like, do you have to watch Houston and Oklahoma City?
No, I'm interested in the Celtics Bulls series. I like that, and maybe it's because of the two franchises that are involved too, because this isn't what we grew up watching, Celtics Bulls, but it's a lot more competitive than we thought a 1 versus 8 would be.
Well, and Chicago is a freak team where they just seemingly in the last couple of years after Thibodeau leaves, they are almost perennially a 500 team, and they tend to beat certain teams and beat them all the time, just like the Raptors, including the Celtics, who have also had a very tough time. So it's one of those series that might be engaging for all the wrong reasons. But, again, it continues Golden State. If they continue, get a healthy Steph Curry, because – look, when you have a series like that, your star players, including him, we don't need you tonight. We'll put in Russell. Young Russell, who's 19. By the way, he's the technical. Are you a technical producer? Is that what we're saying? You're I mean, a technical director.
Director.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way to step that up.
I like that.
You just now made yourself more important, which I think is great on a live broadcast. No, I'm the czar of the technical world. Actually, right now you kind of are. So we're happy, by the way, to have Russell. We don't even know your last name, Russell. That's how close the show is. Russell someone.
Yeah.
What's the last name, Russell?
Graham. Yeah.
That sounds made up. Russell Graham. Honestly, I really think. Did you use that last night at Fillmore's? Yeah. Russell Graham. Russell Graham. There's a Russell Graham in here, and he stole my wallet. Who's Russell Graham? He said he was on your show. I know no Russell Grahams. I've never heard of him. Major League Baseball. Okay, let's play a little game. The game is if you'd like to be someone in the world right now, anyone in the world, just to take their position in life, would it be Donald Trump?
No,
No.
it wouldn't.
Would it be Tom Cruise?
No, you know what? No.
I think that's over now.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
think
time
that's
where
way
maybe
over.
you'd like to be Tom
Yeah.
Cruise. Would you like to be Bryce Harper?
Yeah, I would actually. I'd be okay with that. I'm more of a Mike Trout guy than a Bryce Harper, but Bryce Harper's really going to cash in a lot more significant than what Mike Trout just did.
So are we saying that it's the Yankees and everybody else is going to be interested? I mean, look, there are going to be a lot of suitors.
Yeah.
I'm just saying realistically.
Yankees, Dodgers.
Are the Phillies are they going to spend some money?
Could be. It's not like they haven't in the past. Maybe to that same extent. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets get in there just because it's a New York-based team. I'd be surprised if there's a middle of the road team that decides to go, okay, we're all in on this player.
I think you've got to be at least to me, if you're really saying all in, then he can't be the only thing that you've got. You've got to have some sort of
exactly. You can't stick Bryce Harper in the middle of the Tampa Bay Rays lineup and go, okay, there you go. You got Longoria, who's probably on his way out soon, and Bryce Harper and a lot of young pieces. You can't do that.
Speaking of young pieces, I guess he's doing okay.
He's doing okay.
Yeah.
He's doing very good.
So that in that way, I think we all agree that we would like to be Bryce Harper.
Yeah, Bryce Harper.
No, yesterday we had a conversation about Celine Dion, which I thought
was terrible.
I thought extremely well, except in the Bastel household where there was some heat. Irene, this is not a show that you can just call in and attack Dave unfairly and hurt him. It's just the fantasy world.
She makes a good point about being married with 2 kids. Yeah.
So get your own show and make out with who you want then. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying good night, Irene, good night. That's what I'm saying.
I've used that line before.
I'm sure you have. Also, look at Major League Baseball. The Blue Jays
split with the Angels, and they're probably happy with that.
Well, if you're looking,
because they haven't split with anybody this year.
They haven't won 2 games in a row. They're the only team that hasn't done that. And already there is in this city that has a reputation, that's Toronto, for being bandwagon jumpers. Are you feeling people are not jumping off buildings. There's no, it's not like there's a panic when the Blue Jays don't do well. It's like, oh well, that's over. What else do we got going on?
There is that, but there is that fan base that sits there and goes, oh no, it's April 25th. By the way, happy birthday to my brother, April 25th today.
Oh,
yeah, Mike.
So it's all within walking distance of Dale Howardchuck's birthday.
It is.
That's what I find so odd.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Very odd.
But you sit there and you go, Tulowitzki, Donaldson, Happ, Stroman, all on the DL. Bautista stinks this year. He really does. Russell Martin isn't much better. Actually, worse.
Yeah.
Hit the home run yesterday, but still, it's been dismal. This team's in some trouble.
But why do baseball fans, and again, this is going to be a Blue Jay conversation for a second, think that somehow at the beginning of the year that they had they had that window of a couple of years.
They did.
Guys get older. I mean, there's a reason why people looked at some of the price tags and some of these players, including Jose Bautista, and said, I'm not spending that money. And so time runs out. I think just honestly, it's father time. Russell Martin, as much as predominantly you always see and historically that he has a slow start with the bat, but again, looking at where he is chronologically in his career, I just didn't say, well, he's going to have a bang-up year. Well, Pilar's going to do what he does, and if you have a healthy Josh Donaldson, there's
there's one of the best players in the American
League.
All-Star.
An all-star.
Yeah.
But when those things kind of go south, Tulo's just going to get up there and take the place, and
Blue Jay fans are hoping that they could kind of milk what they've been doing for the last 2 years and just extend it a little bit longer. You sat there and you went, okay, Edwin's out of this lineup. That sucks. That was terrible going to Cleveland. But Kendrys Morales would provide similar type offensive numbers. Maybe there's a chance that 5-man rotation, which was actually, the heart of this team, you look at that and you go, okay, well, playoffs? Should there be a wild card? I think expectations weren't that bad as far as thinking that this team is good enough to make the playoffs, because there's a lot of weak teams in the American League.
Yeah, I don't know if you're and even still, if we're taking a look at just briefly. So if you've got Baltimore at 13-5, were you afraid necessarily that Baltimore would be that kind of juggernaut that's going to walk through everything? I don't think you are.
No, I thought I thought Baltimore would be like the 3rd or 4th best team in the division.
Like, you've got the Yankees that just are the Yankees, even when they don't necessarily have the personnel. You got to believe that they're competitive. I think it was Boston that a lot of people thought at some point would show their true colors and actually take over the division. It's only like under 20 games. Under 20 games. But I think when you get to like the, 30 or 40 games in, kind of a
I'd say 40 to 50.
Yeah,
sure.
you start to get a third way. You're going to get a better feel. But the problem is with the Blue Jays, when you're 5-14, in order to get in this thing, you're now contemplating that team is going to have a run of like 10 games in a row or more.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's realistic for any one of these teams in the American League East.
You sit there and you look at, okay, to get back to respectability, if we're talking about 30 games from now, they have to go 20-10.
Yeah, there's going to be an enormous run in there somewhere that is spectacular, and we're talking about a team that so far hasn't strung 2 wins in a row together.
Bingo.
So I think that's a little delusional. But honestly, if I'm taking a look at the American League itself, and I'm looking at maybe a team like Cleveland that I thought would probably come back strongly. You've got teams like Houston that we know over the last couple of years Houston would be there. Texas got off to another slow start. But I don't know necessarily if I'm looking at the entire American League and going, you don't want to play that team. I don't know if there's one of those teams that exists. At some point, Houston, I still think because the money that they spent,
I think Houston is...
they're going to be there.
Yeah, I think Houston's going to be there. Houston's also the type of team that would probably add to this lineup somewhere in the middle of the season. Cleveland is a team that is off to an start, but I think Cleveland's going to be there in the end.
Texas has to show up at some point, don't
They
they?
usually do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised at the slow start. But if you're looking at odds on Cleveland, Houston, and I'm still a fan of what the Boston Red Sox can do when everything's clicking and everybody's actually healthy on the field at the same time.
Of some of the news that I think is interesting when you're talking about the kinds of monies now that you are investing in an athlete. So when you're dealing with the modern era of professional sport, you are talking about the demands of a guy that's going to see himself more or less as a brand. I mean, that sort of has become the word that has defined the modern day athlete. If you're Madison Bumgarner, he has done more for that team, even based on the amount of monies that he gets. There is no question when you look at that World Series, he threw literally his arm off I want to say double the innings of an average pitcher on any of those other teams in the playoffs. He single-handedly literally won them a championship. So the fact that he goes out and he gets hurt in a dirt bike, and look, he's a Southern guy.
He is, yeah.
He doesn't care, and he goes, maybe it wasn't the most responsible decision, but it is who he is. And what are you going to do? Start railing on him? The question is, for your athlete, for the monies that you spend on that individual, just what kind of stipulations are you expecting in non-baseball or that non-sport? Because I know they're out there. I know that there's a lot
part of the contract.
You got to sign it.
Yeah. Well, you look at some of them because I've heard about some of them in the past where you're not allowed to go skiing, downhill skiing, cross country, go nuts. Don't know why you would, but any kind of motor vehicle sports. Some contracts state that they don't want you on a motorcycle.
Well,
like not a dirt bike, just a motorcycle down the street.
Well, Ben Roethlisberger.
We don't want you on it.
You take a look at a lot of those guys that are triple letter athletes. If you played football, I can guarantee you also lettered in basketball, or at some point were probably the star of basketball, maybe a point guard,
track and field. Yeah.
But if you're playing NFL football, they're not going to want to hear about pickup basketball games.
No.
Because if you want to talk about knees and where stuff really happens,
bingo.
That is enormous. But I think it's just interesting. But you're going to tell me that there's going to be some sort of laying of the law or ripping on Madison Bumgarner? He's done more for your franchise, and he kind of has risked, by the virtue in the way in which he throws, he's made more of a risk just how he throws the ball than he ever would in a dirt bike. So there's really nothing you can do about that, is there?
No, there isn't. I'm just kind of, surprised that, and the Giants are off to a terrible start, by the way. You talk about some of the panic that is in Toronto. The Giants are actually supposed to do more than what the Blue Jays were to do this year in the West and compete with the Dodgers and maybe even win the division. I mean, let's check back in about a month to see if that's going to come through, but they are not off to close to the start where they should have been.
Well, I'll be honest. Baseball at times for me is an excellent sport for getting hammered because there's just not a lot of stuff going on. I'm sitting in the ballpark. Guys are scratching themselves. I mean, just how itchy are your balls? Can you just leave them alone for an inning or two? But it's constant. There's a lot of picking. Like, I just really, guys are doing their own scoring. Why are you doing your own scoring? Is there not a girl at home? Don't you have cable? Do you go to RebTube? I don't know. I just
or look up at the scoreboard
or
itself.
Just
right?
because they have done that already for you.
Yeah.
But baseball is something, I get to this time of year, so we're talking on spring football, depending on the schools that we're talking about. You've got here in Canada, CFL, you're going to have some of these camps that are opening
It's
up.
coming up soon.
This summer, looking forward to, again, you got mini camps. You've got, and honestly, with the NFL draft now a couple of days away, then you're starting to think a little bit about, these teams being assembled and what we can expect in August. Although the NFL exhibition season I know it's only, 4 games?
4 games. August.
It seems like 40. And you get tickets. And by the way, you go to you can't call them an exhibition game. You got to call them a preseason game. They get mad when you say exhibition. But when you go to see Tom Brady and Russell Graham walks on as the starting quarterback, I have just burned my money. Not that I don't want to see Russell do well. I'm just saying,
I want to see what he does, but maybe like somewhere else, not in the middle of Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Russell, again, our what do you call yourself again? A director? Technical director. Technical director.
Technical, yeah.
But, now, does Tom Brady need to play a preseason game?
Probably not.
No, it's like, my timing's a little bit off. I mean, but is it...
Do you need 4 games, though? Do you need 4 games in an exhibition year? Or preseason, I should say?
Yeah, you need he needs a couple series and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
But it's still, it is just a long process. But when they start talking about cutting it in half, which the players would love, the agents would love.
If they cut it in half, will they add on to the regular season?
Well, this is what they're saying. If you're an owner. So I'm going to lose at least one gate, maybe 2?
Because it's added on to your season ticket package.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not. And that's money in their pocket. When you go to an exhibition, preseason game in the NFL, and there is 10,000 fans in a 75,000 capacity stadium, the official attendance is usually around 60-something, 70-something, because those are sold seats that are empty. So there is money being transferred from patron to owner in those situations, and they don't want to lose that.
No, they don't want to lose it, definitely. We're going to take a look at the NHL playoffs as well. I know that south of the border that the ratings haven't exactly been stellar. To sit there and try to defend the product like we work for the NHL, I think would be ridiculous because, quite honestly, sport is to be engaged when you either sit in front of it or you're listening. I mean, look, sometimes certain sports translate so well on radio that they're great to listen to. If you got a great play-by-play guy, that's one thing. And by the way, we're going to get to something very interesting if we can now. Can we do B-roll today? Are we going to be able to play something off the computer, or are we going to leave that for tomorrow?
If we do, I won't be able to.
Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you what. We'll leave that for tomorrow. I just thought it was interesting that Michigan memories that I
Good
did
memories,
years ago.
too.
Yeah. Someone in Tampa Bay representing the hockey people down there have stolen it and put their own name on it, and it's on YouTube.
No.
Yeah, saw that today.
Wow.
So I'll just look, and it's just kind of weird, and they chopped it all up. But we'll go back and it's okay. I mean, if it's popular enough to steal, I think that's a compliment to a degree.
Our man Steve Rapp texts into us and says Geddy Lee sits behind home plate and scores the game.
Yeah. Well, Getty, don't do that. Concentrate on screaming salesman, and we'd like to do something for you. This one's called Bastille Day, and even he says Bastille, as you notice. But looking at the NHL, which teams are real, which teams aren't. So for the first time, we get a chance to do this. 2017. Believe or not believe. So who do we believe in and not believe in? If we're taking a look at the upcoming series, now, I don't know television ratings, Nashville and St. Louis. I don't know if people are knocking down Nana to go and watch this thing, but are we believing in either of these teams?
As far as just picking a winner right now or doing something significant, what do you think?
Let's say significant. Now let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Who gets out of it? And
Who
if
gets
they
out
do,
of it?
do they do anything?
I like the St. Louis Blues in this one. I think they're riding a hot goaltender with Jake Allen. When you look at the rosters itself, they're both pretty deep. St. Louis does have a little more star power when you look at Vlad Tarasenko. Very, very good player. I think the St. Louis Blues win this in about 6 games. Curious to see who they face in the next round because that's going to be the ultimate test because the opposition on the other side, I think whoever wins that series, and we'll get to that right now, will end up winning the Western Conference.
Jake Allen, I believe, is working with Marty Brodeur.
Yes.
So
Not bad, eh?
I mean, if you're looking at the difference between what one does without Marty Brodeur and with, that would be a great, because Jake Allen has been a great story. If we're looking at Edmonton and Anaheim, this series I'll watch.
Yes.
This is going to be an interesting one. Just curious, as we take a look at an Anaheim team that year after year has, and quietly had, what were they, over 100 points again.
Again, yep.
And even though on the radar, I don't know how many people were talking about Anaheim necessarily. Now they got Edmonton, a lot of eyeballs on this one.
Big time, big time. Now, Anaheim is the Vegas favorite to win the Western Conference. However, I like the Edmonton Oilers to actually pull the upset in 7 games here. I think this is going to be the best series of the second round. I like Edmonton in the slight upset. Watch for the Ducks on home ice, though. 29-8-4 on home ice. They are amazing. It's a big team. Defense is going to be bolstered now that Cam Fowler is officially back with the Ducks. He's been practicing. So you look at the rich getting richer as far as that defense is concerned with the Ducks. I'm a little suspect with John Gibson, to tell you the honest truth. He hasn't had a very good year. And when Jonathan Bernier is playing more than you at times of the year, I'm suspect right now. I like Cam Talbot, what he's doing in the Oilers net. And, of course, they have a guy named Connor McDavid who's pretty damn good.
Pretty good. It's funny in talking about John Gibson. We've been talking about him for
forever,
probably
yep.
3 years
Yep.
at least. And that just goes to show you that look, seasons sometimes aren't consistent. Sometimes it's health, and there's just really no way of knowing that you're going to get a blue chip guy. Even though every tendency in the world was telling me that John Gibson is going to be as good as any starter, like a top 5 goal in the league. And this year, you certainly can't say that.
Yeah, and there's been some injury problems along the way for Gibson as well. So I'm not going to sit there and close the book on his career. But this hasn't been the type of season, although the Ducks did very, very well. Randy Carlyle coached this team up and down. I just look at this situation going, you know what? I like a faster Edmonton Oiler team to win, and that would be an upset.
Hey, in sports, I'll take anyone that plays with pace. You show me some speed, I'm going to show you me watching it. So, therefore, in the West, if I'm looking at the two, I'm probably going to be watching the series Edmonton and Anaheim, which is so awesome. Eastern Coast time, when the games they go to overtime, finally over 2 o'clock in the morning. But whatever. It's we're now on the internet now. No one gives a shit. We wake up, we can smell like beer, we can be covered in urine. No one cares anymore. Actually, that happened with the old show anyway, too. So, no one, I guess, big difference. I don't know how much of the Rangers-Sens series I'm going to watch, but if we're looking at it, we're talking about believing or not believing. I just don't think either one of these teams necessarily have a chance to win the whole thing or even come out of their conference. But if we're looking at the series, Dave, a New York team versus an Ottawa team, that is Ottawa favored in this thing?
Ottawa is slight favorite just because they are technically the home team and they have home ice advantage. But I'm going Rangers on this. I think the Rangers are the better team. I think the Rangers handled the Montreal Canadiens well. Hank is playing very, very well in the net. You talk about a goaltender that had his struggles during the regular season, his injuries as well. There was some talk during the season, and I don't know why, but there was some talk during the regular season that, hey, maybe Lundqvist is on his way to Las Vegas as far as expansion team pickup. And I mean, that is not going to happen one bit. I like the Rangers to win in 6 games, and it's going to be a lot of goaltending and a lot of firepower up front.
Would he do great at the Spearmint Rhino or what?
He would own the city. And that's tough to own Vegas.
Yeah. He should buy it. Where's Henry? He's got to talk to some of the girls. He's really disappointed in the VIP section. Think of some of the moves you do as a goalie.
Yeah.
They transfer to some of the things that you'd see in the Spearmint Rhino. I think
is that going to be one of the main sponsors of the Knights?
But you could see it. He'd have the little man bun going on. He's got.
No, don't say that.
Yeah,
don't say
he'd
the
be
man.
Great. Okay, not necessarily watching that in the East, to be honest with you, but if you like sports, how are you not watching Pittsburgh and Washington? And I know people are saying, well, at some point, Washington has to be successful in the playoffs, don't they? Are we saying not so fast, Kowalski?
Yeah, not so fast, Kowalski. I like the Pittsburgh Penguins in this one, and guess what? Sorry to tell you, they're Capitals fans. I like the Penguins in 5 games. Ooh. I think this is going to be a quick series, and imagine how much faster this would be if Chris Letang was in the lineup for the Penguins. This Penguins team was all forces on deck for that Columbus series. They look brilliant. They're scoring every which way up front. I'm not convinced with the Capitals. They struggled with a Maple Leaf team, and I know it's a nice story, and people go, oh, Maple Leafs did well in 5 overtime. You're not supposed to hand 5 overtime games to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That series, if you're serious Washington Capitals, that series should have been wrapped up in 4 or 5 games, and it should have been convincing. There shouldn't have been 1-goal games. There should have been 5-1 games. There should have been 6-0 games, and I didn't see the dominance I wanted for the Capitals. Penguins are a different breed. I think the Penguins walk all over the Capitals, and to tell you honest truth, I look forward to it.
You know, sometimes in sports, you have to look at tendencies. And if I'm looking at Toronto, that once again is sort of on the human side of it, a great story. And I think even from the NHL business side of it, that they have done a wonderful job. But a 1-8,
Yeah.
and I got to make it that close. Pittsburgh is not Toronto. If I'm looking, and Pittsburgh will do a wonderful job of breaking that thing down when they look at film. And quite honestly, it was the pace.
Yeah.
The speed of the young Leafs gave Washington a hell of a lot of trouble. So.
And now it's time to play everyone's favorite game show. Watch it or bet it.
Absolutely.
We have to transfer into that with the 4 series, of course.
Sitting there talking about who's going to win. What are we, 8? No one cares. What are we betting on? So if I'm taking a look at game by game, and I should have had the numbers in front of me. By the way, we are going to make a huge announcement on just who we're going to be working with. If I'm looking at, let's for instance, over-unders, I can't see that Nashville-St. Louis being over very often.
No. That's going to be a goaltender's battle. As much as we talk about Jake Allen and how well he's played, Pekka Rinne was outstanding against the Blackhawks. I would be surprised in this first game, considering there's a feeling out process as well involved. These two teams will not hit 5 goals in game number 1. That I know for sure.
See, that's a good one. And are we watching it or betting it or both? What are we doing? I'm not watching it.
I don't know if I'm watching it.
I'll bet it.
I'll bet it.
I'll bet the under.
I'll bet the next guy that walks across the street gets. No, I'm just joking.
Edmonton to Anaheim. You could be looking at the opposite here. You could see some goals in this game, I think.
I think we could see some goals in this one. I see 2 pretty good high-profile offenses. From the Ducks' perspective, there is some defense involved, but you're playing against Connor McDavid. I'm sorry. You know what? If you're looking for numbers-wise and totals-wise, this is the series, and also the Pittsburgh-Washington one, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Dave, that music is shit. I can't believe, Russell, you put that in the system.
He did it.
I don't know why you dislike us so. When we say all the nice things that we do about you, Russell Graham. And I don't know where that must have come from, the shopping network. You know those loser shopping network people that go on there? And I remember there's that guy, be something that goes, well, today on the show, we have a ceramic dolly. Okay, by the way, buddy, you're in your 30s and you just said the word dolly.
He's probably older than that, too.
I
don't know how many people are in their 30s.
Yeah, he looks like, Niles Crane or whatever. And he's on there. He's always, we've got a dolly with beautiful porcelain hands. Yeah, where are you putting those hands? I don't want to hear the word dolly or you talking about one. And the music is always shit. It's always cheesy like that. So we'll change that up, and we'll get to the watching or betting it. But I have a feeling when it comes to Edmonton and Anaheim, I think we're doing both.
I agree with that. And also, by the way, both totals are at 5 goals. So you're looking at for the most part in the playoffs 5 to 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5. You're getting lucky if you're loving, but they're smarter than that. I have seen when it gets tight at 4.5.
See, that's really tight.
And they will drop.
I don't see that too often.
If you're in play, doing the in play,
yes.
Once that puck is dropped and no one has scored and it's a tight game, 4.5 now. No one's even spit yet. How can you drop it to 4.5, you thieves? But that's what they do. So I think we're looking at it because picking on a nightly basis, Edmonton and Anaheim, that's going to be very, very interesting. And I'm sure if you're taking a look at value in terms of what you get for the Oilers in that first game, that numbers probably looks pretty decent, maybe better than you think. But I would definitely take an over in that. If they're telling me, you said 5 even?
5 even on both. The only one that's 5.5 right now, or registered at 5.5, is the Pittsburgh-Washington opener.
Interesting. So what do we have? New York and Ottawa. I don't know necessarily if I'm betting it, but I don't really think I'm watching them, being honest. I just don't think it's...
I look for the Rangers to draw first blood in this one. If you get a higher number, which I'm hoping you can, those numbers will come out a little bit later on in the evening. I look for the Rangers to win on Ottawa home ice for game number 1.
Because the Boston-Ottawa series, almost every game was under. Those were tight games.
It was.
Because Ottawa's not going to do a ton of scoring. Pittsburgh-Washington, you said if we're looking at the total of 5.5, And I think you do have a good chance of that happening. But I think if you're looking for value in terms of what a win or a loss, I would think the number for Pittsburgh is probably pretty attractive.
I look forward to that number, and yeah, I'm kind of curious too, because a lot of people don't realize this, but when Vegas sets lines, a lot of them are sitting there going, Washington, President's Trophy winner, top. They don't understand the breakdown of how we kind of will evaluate a game. That's nice that you win a President's Trophy. Enjoy it in your showcase, because it doesn't mean squat right now in the second round of the playoffs. If you're getting the comfortable number with Pittsburgh, watch for that on the road, because this will be a short series. And Pittsburgh's going to win in Washington, and they might win multiple times.
When the series, any series is over in hockey, the joke is always, they're going to play golfing on the golf course.
Yeah, you get that all the time.
Yeah, I get that. But honestly, who doesn't love golf? And I don't mean that you have to go out and play every day. I don't mean you have to know every single stat about golf. But golf is just...
Golf's
as a
awesome.
guy, golf is fantastic.
Yeah.
The one thing that I don't get, and my brother-in-law says this, Jordan Spieth. Hate that fucking guy. I fucking hate Jordan Spieth. Lou, why do you... Little Buddha. He's known as Little Buddha. Why do you hate Jordan Spieth so much? Am I missing something here? Is there something about Jordan Spieth that bugs people?
I think it's the whiny face sometimes, and the Masters meltdown, how he kind of...
Like, to me, a whiny face, I'm looking at Tim Duncan, where everything's like, even if he had a shiv and put it right in a guy's neck, and the ref blows the whistle, you get in this face. What? Like, it's like he never, according to him,
has fouled a
foul.
person.
By the way, was he 41 today?
Something like that.
That would be a shit birthday party to go to. It would be like, here's the bill. What? The bill? I don't know.
I didn't know you hated Tim Duncan so much.
We're gonna fight one day. Yeah. Here's the thing about tall guys. You just go in tight.
Knees.
You go knees. See the things you learn, the street fighting. But to me, I just don't understand the because everyone seems to like certain people. Ricky Fowler. People seem to like Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, but as much as you like, there's also the hate for what he wears. What's that goof doing on the golf course with that bright yellow hat and pants and shoes? I mean, it's not very golf-like, right?
And he also reminds me of, like, if you're going to pick, like, a character you're casting in a movie, it's like he's a weird combination of Leonardo DiCaprio and kind of Johnny Depp. And
I could see the Leo combination.
Yeah.
I could see that.
But then there's the eyebrows that you'd see in a movie that's about Eskimos or something. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very like a Bushman. Is that a thing? Or is that a word?
I don't know if it is.
Yeah. I think it is, and I've used it in a really terrible context. But who's popular? Jason Day's popular.
Very popular. DJ's popular for many reasons. Dustin Johnson.
Do you trust him still if you're gambling though?
No.
He fell down the stairs.
Did he really though? I'm just saying. Did he really fall downstairs?
He's got that Carolina slow way. Well, I'm walking down the stairs. You're finding the stairs tricky now? Because I thought it was just the putting, but now stairs tough.
He is rated #1 in the world.
What do Wayner really thinks of him?
Do you think that? You know what? It's funny.
I don't know.
We never got the answer. By the way,
but and look, she married a. Well, they're actually not married, are they?
No, they're not married technically. No.
Whatever it is what have they done in sin? Sinners.
Just terrible, eh? Unheard of, right?
I just can't believe what's going on in that. That he's got to go. Oh yeah, well, at least he's a good player and stuff. Which he is.
Yeah, he is. It's funny though, because every single pro-am, they're always together. Always.
Yeah, I know it. Like,
and
look,
Gretzky's sitting there going, "Could I just play with maybe lefty today, or is that good, or is that you okay with that? Jason Day maybe?
What about Ian Poulter in the clubs? See that's a little
that's out there. Yeah, well, his record shows it too, right? I mean, the guy hasn't really won anything in a while, and I don't know. He's kind of more hype than anything. Yeah, I'll always remember him for the Ryder Cup antics and stuff like that. He's had a couple coffees in his day.
I think if you're not a huge golf guy, though, isn't the Ryder Cup the format kind of? Isn't it fun?
It's awesome.
I like the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I wish the Ryder Cup was sometimes monthly.
Yeah, like you get the
It'd probably take away from it, but you know what I mean.
the Ryder Cup, in terms of modern day excitement
Ryder
for
Cup.
even a non Ryder Cup, and also the waste management tournament is a freak show.
Yes.
And that's a bucket list thing for me.
And that course is awesome. I had a chance to golf that course with my dad a couple of years ago.
Did you really?
And
Was
yeah,
Gina Gershon there?
Gina Gershon was not there, but we did have a male,
Irene, don't call in just because I said Gina Gershon either.
we did have a male caddy though, so I don't know if that counts for anything. And he's wearing the full white.
Oh, really?
gear. Yeah.
See, why do they dress them up like guys?
And then we have to tip them too, and it's like you don't know how much you're tipping them because you never have a caddy, and it's like you don't want to. You know what I
I
mean?
think
Like,
caddy's weird. It's like, do you have your own butler? Because that's kind of what it is. It's a little elitist. To have
well, you don't get a
it-
chance to do it too often, right?
But
if
they
you and
were-
I go to Thornhill, we're not getting a caddy.
No. We should.
We should,
They're
but clearly we're not.
So cheap and mean to us there. But then you got to wear those Planet of the Ape jumpsuit things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
And guess what? In Arizona, it gets a little hot.
not good.
So if you're wearing that in the middle of the day,
I'm at Glen Abbey and I have to go in this pro-am, and I go with Lisa Lott Neumann at the time.
okay,
Swedish girl, good, substantial player.
sure.
But I'll be honest, I don't follow a ton of LPGA. So she comes out, and we're going to play this thing, and I go up to her and I say, "Are you enjoying the course in the sunshine here in Canada?"
That's really good. Did you say it just like that too?
She's like, "Yeah, no accent." Yeah, I live in Florida. Right. Like, just you look like an asshole. Like, all of a sudden, she's like, the guy doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. So we go in, and there's his caddy in the Planet of the Apes jumpsuit, and I'm walking down and go, "So, what's it like being a caddy?" Like that. Like,
Sure.
Like really shitty. Now, he probably
I
makes.
was gonna say
He makes probably.
you're already making fun of the guy before you ask the question.
He makes based on what she makes. So let's just say he makes a couple $100,000. What I mean, he makes a good living.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him and I'm like, "So what's it like being a caddy?" He goes, "It's a great living. We go around the world and it's provided for my my family." And I'm like, right. You close with her? You close? He goes, "Yeah, we're very close." "Yeah, ever been to her house for Thanksgiving?" No. Yeah.
Not,
real
not-
close.
Not that close.
Yeah, real close. What do you get, a card at Christmas? Next thing you know, I don't see him either. And they're just off playing. And then
Wow.
Dave, they're just fucking, they're gone.
How to alienate people?
They're
and-
just gone. Like, it's the second hole. And I'm like, where's, oh, no, they actually skipped the hole. They're
Yeah.
over on the fourth now. Good luck. Talk to you later. God. See, that's when the pissiness of golf, I think, gets people, like people calling in, the calling in of rules. Who would do that?
Yeah. I don't get from the PGA standpoint who answers those calls. It's like, screw off. Don't call us in the middle of this. No, beat it.
Yeah. You are watching or listening podcast-wise.
They're doing both.
Yeah, they're doing both here. www.rawmickrichards.com. Thanks to our friends at Henry's. With the camera equipment, you've noticed that there's probably a extra shot, as we like to call the business. It's a 3-shot now, Dave. And no one right now washing windows. It doesn't have to. It's raining here today. We also want to thank Eggplant, of course, who've been with us, for about 6 months planning this thing as we continue to grow it each and every day. Looking forward to some of the guests that we do actually have lined up. Also, Avi Studios. If you go to our website, it was designed by the young Benjamin. Lauren doing a great job. And what you're going to see over the next couple of days is just sort of the ability that we have to show you different things within what they call the ecosystem. So there's a lot of the stuff that we have shot on camera, some of the stuff I did years ago that people, I think, basically refused to air. And now, you can't stop me. I'm going to show you exactly how you can access thing, and you'll be doing it probably within the next 24 hours, just like some of the podcast questions that we had. Based on, and I think a lot of you know this, that are used to downloading some of these files. You go to iTunes or Google Play. A lot of those issues, the file's so big because we do a 2-hour show that there's some compression. So one of our listeners, I think it was what's he call him, Faz Habs?
Yeah, Frazzy Habs.
Yeah. So he said, "How come I have an echo?" It's because we yesterday did it the cheapo way, and tried to compress it in a way that because it had less quality.
See, I thought
That's what
maybe
you got.
he had a Commodore VIC 20.
The Commodore VIC 20.
Yeah, I thought
I
maybe that was
wasted a lot of time on that.
Yeah, me too.
geek, gook, geek, beep, beep, bloop, bloop. And we remember we thought that was
And you'd play Breakout to it. Bloop, bloop, bloop,
Oh.
blonk, blonk, blonk.
It's-
bloop, bloop, bloop.
it's like the early PlayStation. What was the hockey game on that one? There's a couple of games that we
There was a lot of games on that one. You're not talking Blades of Steel, are
What
you?
was Blades of Steel on?
Blades of Steel was that Sega? I
That
forget.
was Sega.
It may have been Blades of Steel.
See, because what was the one that said Boom Chakalaka? That was the basketball.
That was
one.
basketball. Yeah,
That was
that's
basketball.
NBA Jam. And you always played Dan Marley. Marley, run down. He's on fire.
See, we can't even. And I'll be honest. Some people say, "Where's Trollololo Man?" You try to play it, and this is the thing we have to deal with when you start talking about YouTube and some of the issues. They have little mechanical robot machines. I'm not sure what the real.
We're
term
gonna
is.
have to destroy them too.
We have to take lasers and kill them because they will look for music that apparently is copyrighted, and it kind of stops your cast. It closes it down. It's like this infringement. And so I thought, the songs we're going to play, whatever it is, like even Yakety Sax, the Benny Hill thing, shut down.
Really?
No, you can't play it. And so Trollo, who is tracking Trollololo Man? I think we're the only show in the last 30 years who's played that song.
Yeah, we made it famous again.
So yeah.
And that's how they treat us.
And that is so maybe we're huge in Russia. You never know.
Could be.
I mean, it is the World Wide Web. So maybe we'll talk about that as well. Other things sort of on our radar. We mentioned that the NFL draft coming up.
Some NFL news yesterday too. Some significant news heading into the draft with a certain free agent running back as well.
Well, the last time that we talked probably of any significance with this running back was him using a switch on his son.
Don't get me started on this.
And that took how many years do you think in terms of, because there was, we're talking injuries as well. But he literally seemingly has lost the latter part of his career.
Yep.
Like just gone.
And that will follow him everywhere he goes for the rest of his life. It's just like, I'm not going to put it in the exact same perspective as Michael Vick, but when they do a retrospect on Michael Vick when he's 60, what are you going to remember about Michael Vick?
It could be that, which takes away from
Sure it
the
does.
kind of running back that he's always been. So with the Saints,
2-year deal, $7 million, ESPN reporting.
good move, bad move?
I think it's a good move.
Because I think with that kind of money, based on what he normally would get, what you're saying is, in their terms, not human being, you're giving me $7 million over 2 years. We're like the greatest people in the world. That you would want to be my friend.
Yeah.
That now you're taking a look at. They're saying what for that chunk of change. And remember, there's no guaranteed contracts in the NFL.
No, there isn't.
If
They could cut that loose in mid-season, end of season. I just, Adrian Peterson, we've seen it before with some of his injuries where people have told him, you can't do this, you can't do that. I look for him to scream back in a vengeance. Like, I'd be surprised if this guy isn't a top 10 rusher in the National Football. I'd be shocked. And you know what's even more cool about this? Drew Brees' offense gets this much better. And if you get a chance to watch the Saints on a regular basis, the offense is awesome. You look at the 400-plus yards per game of passing. The receivers are great, even with some of the deletions this offseason. Now you add a guy who's going to be able to run the ball as well. I think it's a fantastic move. Plus, Adrian Peterson runs the ball. Saints defense not on the field. That's a good move. Because you don't want to put the Saints defense on the field because they are terrible. That's a bottom 5 defense. And if the offense has the ball, well, your defense isn't on the field. And to boot, week 1, Monday Night Football, 7 o'clock start. The Saints travel to Minnesota on that opening kickoff. Not bad.
Does the guy with the horns and the
Yeah,
Viking,
he's still there.
Is he still
there? Now it's called Bank One Stadium. Now the stadium looks like should be in the middle of Los Angeles. It's so nice.
Like, look, certainly lately here in Toronto, there's a dart guy who's become very, very popular. But, for the most part, there's a guy that, was just a huge fan. He puts a maple leaf on his face and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and start him. But when you're going to a football game as a 50-year-old or whatever guy and you're wearing furs and a helmet with horns on it, You trying too hard?
Yeah, he might be.
You might be.
Yeah, he might be.
You're sitting there playing a card game and going, excuse me, Steve, you don't need to get up because it's fucking bugging everybody, the fact that you're doing this. We prefer you just because he's isn't he like a TT, like a transit guy?
I don't know.
Because you'll find that at certain professions, like accountants, don't really do that kind of shit.
They shouldn't. I know the live mascot, the guy that actually used to, drive the Harley Davidson and dress up as a Viking.
Yes.
He went in there once to the Vikings and demanded that he gets more money. And then they said goodbye to him.
You know how that conversation goes? By the way, I think I deserve some more. I don't know why he's talking like he's Billy Barty, but I deserve some more money. And the guy would probably go, I'm sorry. Who are you? I'm Valkar, the Brave.
Or something, yeah.
I drive an ATV every time you guys score.
You got it.
We don't fucking know who you are. Like, we don't. If you died tomorrow, no one would go to your funeral. I'm sorry, but so no more money. I'm sorry, what's the name? Valkar. Okay, Valkar. Yeah, you're out. You're shit. I just, look, are there good mascots?
There's a couple out there.
What's the one that's, is it the Timberwolves that have the werewolf guy? And he does all the, or is that in Denver? Where
I don't know
he
about
jumps
that.
off the trampoline and he does like spinning dunks and
stuff. The really good one, the Phoenix Suns mascot's fantastic. The gorilla. The gorilla's awesome. The gorilla should be playing point guard for the Suns. Never mind being a mascot.
Yeah, they wouldn't mind defense every once in a while. Maybe they gotta implement him. The Phoenix Suns, the Sun Dancers.
Yeah, you're okay with that?
I'm very, Look, I got some stories I can tell. I don't know what you're allowed to tell, and people get pissed off. Okay, so we go down and we're sitting there in Phoenix, and I go to the building and. It's pretty exciting, and Steve Nash.
I was going to say, this is Steve Nash era.
And they're playing Houston. Yao Ming is on this team. He for sure is the tallest Asian man I've ever seen.
Yep.
The world has ever seen. And because of, obviously, how famous he is in China, there are a lot of Chinese people there. A lot of people.
You get that a lot with the baseball players, too.
Absolutely.
Anytime Ichiro came to Toronto and guys like that, they would fill the stands. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it's just a stereotype, but I've never seen camera equipment like that every time he touched the ball. This was like 10 years ago, so they still had that, that Nikon or whatever. And they had camera stuff like, it looked like X-ray machines, and there was like a lens coming right over my shoulder. I'm like, hey. He's going to get the ball more than once. Trust me. It's Houston. They got to give him the ball. It's easy.
They don't have anybody else.
But great facility, though, in Phoenix. I mean, of all the places to go. And look, I know people at Winnipeg probably upset, when they lose that team. But if you're on the team and they go, fellas, I got some good news and bad news. They go, well, just give us, we'll figure out what the good news is. We're leaving Winnipeg.
You be careful.
And we're moving to Arizona. All right. What's the bad news? No, that was the bad news. But honestly,
you're so mean.
I know, but I'm just
saying. So
look,
mean.
if they said it anywhere, Dave, let's be honest. Arizona.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you gotta go.
But
no, but my house in
Charleswood
in North Winnipeg.
No, yeah.
What, the one with the bars in front of it?
You don't want to have a house in North Winnipeg.
Yeah, that was boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah, AKA North End.
North End.
North End, yeah.
Was like being probably in the former Soviet Union in about 1972.
I don't know if 72 would be the right year.
That's where I went through a drive-through. I think that said liquor store drive-through. I go, drive-through liquor store. I mean, this is a while ago. This is I'm working at the Fan. I'm working at the Fan in Calgary. We're covering Memorial Cup. So we're going to Brandon. But to go through it, I'm going, are you serious? We get to go through a drive-through liquor store. I didn't even have those. So I take the vehicle, drive right to the front, and you're looking around. Based on your previous history with drive-throughs, McDonald's, I believe Tim Hortons said they
sure.
You recognize what a drive-through is. And so I go around the back of the building. It's walls. There are no doors. There is certainly not a window, but there's not even entrance, and there's nothing. So I go back to the front and pull in the front, and I see like the front door. I go in, and I said, "Is this a?" It says drive-through. Yeah, you just drive through the driveway and park your car.
And then get your stuff, get back in the car, and drive
And
through.
drive away. So it's a drive-through drive away. This was This was the North End. Do you have a Heineken? Whoa, easy, Mr. Rockefeller. Whoa, Heineken. Whoa, we just got a fucking helicopter to give you your booze. Like, seriously. Not, and as you can imagine by the excellent impression, not the prettiest of girls.
Some areas.
Now, driving through that part of the world, I'm saying that in the summertime, I want to go to a Bombers game.
Yeah.
That stadium is still, I just think it's fantastic. I think it
Just
looks great.
location is kind of suspect. I don't know why they decided to put it out there.
Is it towards the university?
It is on the university campus. Yeah. It's right on. But the thing is, they have one main fairway in. So it's like you're driving in one area, and guess what? There's 30,000 fans that show up for these games. Maybe not the smartest idea as far as this is the only way in.
Now, you've been to a lot of stadiums, and sometimes
Yes.
they compare, they say it's sort of, at least on television, it looks like the baby brother of what they got in Seattle.
In Seattle, yeah.
It does.
It
and
does.
I love the design. Of the stadiums that you've been to, and look, I really want to do a road. I know a lot of guys have done road trips where they go to different stadiums. Hey, my buddy Jeff Lumby, this is unbelievable. He did this, and I give full credit, full marks for this. The honeymoon, a visit of Major League Baseball stadiums.
Wow.
That was his honeymoon with Julie, and he pulled it off, and she's awesome,
That is awesome.
and he did it.
Yeah.
That goes in the Man Hall of Fame.
I took Irene for our second honeymoon to Detroit for a Lions Jets game.
Well, that just
Yeah.
reeks of romance.
It wasn't quite as good as the real one in Turks and Caicos.
How awkward you sit down there and, oh, hi, Celine. Uh-oh.
No.
Awkward.
Don't worry, she wasn't there.
What stadium, if we're talking to people?
Now, football stadium. You're not talking about hockey facility, arenas, anything like that.
Let's talk about stadiums in general. So it could be football. It could be not indoor, outdoor. So let's the baseball,
Outdoor, yeah.
baseball and NFL.
Ooh.
So if you're sitting there and we're talking to those today, and actually, if you want to get in the conversation, you can tweet Raw Mike Richards or at Dave Bastel as well. Where have you been where you go, I got to tell you, if it's a bucket list thing, so a lot of people are going to talk about Fenway. I've never been to Fenway.
I've been to Fenway. That's part of my top three.
So that is top three.
Fenway, Wrigley, Dodger Stadium. Yeah.
So how much longer do you think was it Chavez Ravine?
Oh, I hope it's forever, but I don't know.
Because sometimes you take a look at these great stadiums, you think, in the corporate world, if it doesn't have enough boxes, if it doesn't have enough seats, so the owner who puts in, well, let's just say, when it comes to Major League Baseball, significant salaries, if it doesn't have some of those things, how long do they last? That's why it's a miracle to me that Boston is, because it only holds like 3,000.
That's it, exactly. And in Boston, and what the Red Sox mean to that city, they could build a stadium that has 70 and they would fill it.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there going, as the owner, going, because they keep on tinkering with that stadium. They added the Fenway seats right behind left field. We're in a lotteries type draft for people that actually want to go to this game. But you can only squeeze so much juice out of a lemon. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I don't know. I think, unfortunately, there'll probably come a time where something is built Fenway 2 or something like that, but it's going to be disappointing. But Fenway is number one to me, only because of the experience I had there. When I was covering the Blue Jays on a beat basis, I had a chance actually to watch part of the game inside the Green Monster. So I'm sitting there.
That's got to be weird.
That was weird. But
does it smell? I always thought
a little bit.
There's got to be an odor.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it was built in like 1810.
And there's been some rumors that some players have gone into the Monster to do some business and so forth. But I'll never forget, though. So we're spending a couple innings in there.
It got to be Manny Ramirez. There's no way that
it is a Manny Ramirez story.
Manny Ramirez like.
Not that part of it. I'm
all
just
of a sudden we've lost Manny Ramirez. I can see that. I can completely see that.
So I'm watching the game from the Monster, and there's sliding windows in the Monster. So it's probably covers your face like an oversized pair of sunglasses. So I'm watching him. Frank Thomas is at the dish for the Blue Jays, and he cranks one that's coming towards.
The one thing I could say about that is, even though you're that far away,
Yeah.
you can see his head.
Yeah. And those feet. I mean, honestly, he's like a size 17 foot. But anyway, enough of that. So I'm looking at Manny Ramirez running towards me, and he turns around, and he's facing the wall. And for the split second, we make eye contact.
Oh, that's weird.
And he's waiting for this ball that Thomas has hit to drop. All of a sudden, you hear this thundering knock of the ball against the wall, and it's metal. So you hear this, and the wall starts to shake. Ramirez grabs the ball off the bounce, turns around, and fires into second base. Thomas walks in with a stand-up double, which obviously means he hit the crap out of the ball because Thomas at that age did not stand up at second base at any time unless it was a home run. And that was my forever Fenway Park memory.
That is a crazy moment. So metal with no, like,
well, there's padding in front, the green padding.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's almost like, if you go up to, sometimes you hit boards in hockey and it makes that sound.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is this making so much? It's like it's funny because you hit the green monster, and it's almost like if you put a light padding on a pan for French fries, and you go
Clune.
Yeah, but a lot louder considering how big the green monster is. But
it'd be weird, look, for whatever you want to say about Man Ram, he did have his days in the sun.
Oh, he was phenomenal out there. Yeah.
Look, and there were sort of the adventures of Manny Ramirez in field.
Totally was. Yeah.
And he was one of the first guys, I think, that did he not let the pants drop all the way down to the bottom? Because they looked like pajamas on him at one point.
Yeah, exactly. There was a couple of guys, but yeah, he started doing that, and yeah, it almost looked like he was wearing a pair of baggy sweatpants that you wear on Sundays or something when you're watching football.
How weird for you.
Do you want to see him in tights though? Because some sleek looking.
I don't need
pants.
to see any guys in tights. That's just my thing.
No, because some baseball players will wear that, and it's like I don't know if I need to see that.
Yeah.
Like imagine CC Sabathia not wearing his sweatpants because he wears sweatpants too. He's a sweatpants guy.
Well, and
there's a lot of CC Sabathia out there.
Yeah, should be forgiven for that fashion choice. But Dave, as the guys coming in, so there's Manny Ramirez, and I mean, this is a famous person.
Yes.
Someone, when they say, if they met someone famous, they go, who? And if they give me the name, I'm like, not that famous.
Yeah.
Like, well known.
Yeah.
But Manny Ramirez, so he's coming in, and you have that weird moment of eye contact.
Yeah.
you don't want to, is there a tendency to say, through the thing, how's it going? What?
My voice sounds a lot different at Fenway, I'll tell you that. But it's like I'm watching him because I'll like I said, I'll remember it forever. I'm watching him, and he's he makes the eye contact, and then he goes back to what he was doing. Right? I'm sure he probably would never remember it that way if we were to talk to him a second after.
See,
but
that's what would be fucking excellent. As you're walking down the street one time, and
remember me?
And you're like Punta Cana.
Hey,
and
look at these. Look at these.
It's like. Hey, Dave, do you remember that time? I was chasing the ball. I didn't know where I was going. It goes very high. And like, oh,
it's Dave.
It's a guy from Canada, but his family's probably Slovenian by the look of his. And boom. That's a cool story.
That is.
No wonder you like Fenway.
Yeah.
Well, what else is on the list?
Wrigley Field, because I got a chance to sit in the bleachers on a afternoon game. This is when the Cubs stunk because guess what? For anybody that
there
watched,
was a lot of that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stinking of the Cubs for like decades. So I got a chance to see that. That was very cool. Dodger Stadium was awesome. You take a lot of pictures at Dodger Stadium just because of the backdrop and so forth. But I think my favorite newer type stadium is what they have in San Francisco, which was called Pac Bell Park at the time. I think it's called AT&T or something like that now.
Yeah.
But that is awesome, and I got a chance to actually hang out in one of these little boats in the docks while they were waiting for fly balls and so forth, and it was at the same time, and this was when it was huge.
So you saw those weird kayak guys.
I was in one of those kayaks.
You're
with the
kidding.
Well, here's the reason why, because at the time,
because I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it was weird, but you know what? You do it for the story and you remember it, right?
Okay.
And because you're working for a network at the time, you kind of have to do certain things they tell you to do, right? But it was cool because at the time, Barry Bonds was chasing Hank Aaron. So every single home run this guy hit meant something. So I was there for.
So that's probably like John Miller doing those games, was it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
I actually saw John Miller. So
Excellent guy.
So that was home run number 747 off of Josh Towers at the time, Toronto Blue Jays, because they were doing one of the interleague plays. And yeah, Bonds hit a home run that day. And I wasn't in the water for any home runs, but I was in the press box. And what they had at that time, once he hit 700, the media relations team with the Giants would hand out little pins, and I still have mine. I was there for a Bonds home run.
Oh, wow.
So
There's another guy's head who you can see, by the way,
that
from
was
a long way away.
his head makes Frank Thomas's look small. But yeah, and it was funny because you're there for like 4 or 5 days, and Barry Bonds gave 0 interviews at that time, and that's kind of unless you were from San Francisco, you didn't really like Barry Bonds.
No.
They loved him in San Francisco there, and I think they probably continue to today.
There was that crazy story in that, and again during these moments in history where you know how huge it is, but there's this weird feeling about what is liked and not liked. So there you have at the time beloved Henry Aaron.
Yes.
So they like Hank, and that number was just burned into our minds growing up. Then you have this guy who at some point didn't look even remotely like he ended up looking when he started, and was bona fide, probably like was a superstar player, and for the most part I think was really liked.
Yeah.
Then becomes this humanly altered whatever it was to hit these balls before they have some sort of formula in place to go, I think the guy's he might be taking something. He's got fangs today. Today he's grown fangs. And so he had this, what I understand to be like this vintage, it was like a barber chair or something, this cool chair that he put in the clubhouse.
Yes. And he was the only one.
The only guy.
Yeah, I saw it. You
saw the chair?
It was a massive chair that you would sit there and
like a throne.
It almost felt like it. Well, everybody else gets these stools, right? You get little stools, almost little bar stools that you'd see here at Pacific Junction, right? And this guy has this, Boss Hog chair. It wasn't white, it was black. A big Boss Hog chair that looked like, Barry Bonds isn't a small dude at that time. We're not talking Pittsburgh Pirates. By the way, Google search Barry Bonds, Pittsburgh Pirates, and take a look at that cheese mustache. Yeah. The guy weighed half as much as I do right now, and all of a sudden he's double my size. But hey, I wonder what happened. No, so you looked at that, and it was massive, and yeah, nobody went near him either. It was not exactly the team environment you'd think you'd want to have.
Can you imagine, though? He probably would have treated it like the drum set in Step Brothers. Did you touch my barber chair? No. Are you sure? Because I think you probably touched my barber chair. And I would do exactly. I would teabag. I would teabag that barber chair. I would, like how to bring a team together, but your own personal throne that nobody else can sit in. Yeah. I don't know how they did it because that is unbelievable. So to sort of recap your stadiums.
Yes.
Fenway, number 1.
Fenway, number 1. Wrigley, number 2. Dodger Stadium, number 3.
I will say that what they have built, both in football and in baseball, out in Seattle.
Haven't been to that one.
That
looks fantastic on TV.
But see, the other thing too, when you start talking about stadiums, it's also not just the game experience. It's the things that the stadiums offer. So they talk about the garlic fries. They hear about the garlic fries down there. So all of a sudden, the kinds of booze, the kinds of foods that you get. I remember at the time down at actually the same trip in Phoenix. At the time, it was called Bank One Ballpark.
Yes. Right downtown, right by America West Arena.
Yeah, just what a brilliant place that was.
Yep.
It was like, to me, like the Willy Wonka of baseball stadiums, because what they did in the outfield, depending on where the wind was, they would open and close the upper facade, right, to make sure that it was perfect for baseball. And it was funny because at the time, I think, the Dodgers were in town, and Sean Green was on that team, playing for the Dodgers at the time. And one of the all-times, we should probably get him. He was great. When I worked originally at the Fan 590, myself and John Derringer, we used to do stuff. Sean Green, when I get up to do my routine or whatever, he'd be front row.
Really?
He thought that stuff was funny. And at one point, we're at a restaurant downtown Toronto in an area called Yorkville, kind of nice, sitting there having this naughty lunch. I don't know. I was with a girl at the time.
Okay.
These are not good stories. The stories I see, you have nice stories, and you're meeting Manny Ramirez. Mine are like, oh yeah, then I had to do 5 to 10, and like mine are terrible stories. And so this guy comes over, and the girl goes, "Oh, I think a couple of fans are coming over." I'm like, loser. And it comes and goes, "Hey, Mike, great to see you." Blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah. Want me to sign something for you? And I didn't realize who it was. And then he goes, "It's Sean Green," because he realized I'm like, there you go, and this goes to your mom.
No, is this Sean with an H or with an E?
Yeah, and he was truly one of the genuine guys. But I remember the Dodger fans travel too.
Yes, they do.
You know,
Yeah, it's not that far away, L.A., Arizona,
no, it's
right?
not bad. But that's a weird sports town because when you think about it, Arizona Cardinals, after they get, they're in the what is it? What do they call their dome now? It's after that fake college.
University of Phoenix Stadium.
University of Phoenix.
It looks like a UFO, a silver UFO.
University of Phoenix. That's not a thing.
No.
Yeah, what conference are you in? You know what I'm saying?
That's where you get your degree.
Russell went to the University of Phoenix. He studied aeronautics. I mean, University of Phoenix.
That's the universities you see on the back of
the matches.
Matches that you flip over. It's University of Phoenix.
Would you like to be a dental surgeon?
And you got to check the right one too, right?
Like,
that's a tough one.
Dental surgeon.
And
do I have to study? No. You don't even have to go to a school.
You know who used to do commercials for that? Larry Fitzgerald.
You're kidding. Yeah, no way.
I'm dead serious.
You get his dad on, too. His dad's pretty fun.
Yes, he is. Yeah. From Minnesota. He's still he's a writer out there.
Larry Sr.
Is it Larry Sr.?
Yeah.
That's original.
Yeah. I think unless he changed it, and that would be really awkward for Larry Jr. That's a weird because when I think of Arizona. So what if I'm talking sports right now, and there might be those listening and or watching in Arizona. If I say Phoenix or Arizona as a state, and we're talking, the conversation is sports, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Is it the Cards?
We're talking sports here, right?
Sports.
Just sports in general.
Because
I'm honestly thinking, University of Arizona.
I'm thinking you're either talking college sports,
but that's in Tucson, so it's not. You know what I mean?
The two
Arizona State's pretty fun too, right?
So if we're talking collegiate sports and or golf, might be number 2.
Yeah, golf's right up there. If you live in Scottsdale, golf is number 1.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't lend itself. It's just like talking about sports in Florida.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the dominating sport in Florida, depending on who you talk to, NASCAR could be way higher than you give it credit. By the way, I see that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is just retiring.
Is he really?
Just that's it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm going enough of the driving.
Yeah. Too many left turns.
Yeah, just
caught up to you finally.
Yeah, the blinker getting on your nerves. One way, all the. But if someone said Tampa, well, look, a lot of those that go to Lightning games, there's a lot of snowbirds down there.
Yeah.
There's a huge Canadian influx. If I'm talking about the Bucks
are more popular than the Lightning,
right? But
even though the Bucks have kind of stunk,
but the Bucks, you take a look at the Bucks. If I'm taking a look at the Panthers, that's a conversation
that's a no-show.
That's a no-show.
Yeah, that team hopefully will be in Quebec City sometime soon.
What about the Dolphins? See, the Dolphins, I'm sure
the Dolphins,
at one point.
Yeah, but the Dolphins don't draw well anymore. No. It's almost like you're in South Florida. You have so many other things to worry. It's like, really? You don't want to – there's 9 home games or 8 home games.
I might be thinking Gators first.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or Florida State maybe you're talking about. And then because of its proximity and its to golfing, obviously geographically, golfing's probably number 2. So I just don't know when they say, hey, it's a hotbed for what? I mean, that's a tough – and I said NASCAR – if I'm saying it's number 3, I'm sure there's a conversation with a bunch of people saying, no. If in Florida, you could go literally NASCAR, game fishing.
Yeah.
Fishing's huge.
Yeah.
Golf, it may not be professional or collegiate down there. It's a tough place to make a living.
Even when LeBron James was with the Heat and they were kind of getting used to winning and winning and winning, they were having a hard time putting bodies in seats.
It was the moment because even corporately, it was the place to be. I mean, we see it at the Rogers Center all the time with, depending on how the team is doing. But it's a retirement sort of place to go to.
Correct.
I think that's why if we're talking about sports cities and sports towns, Boston's got to be a great place.
Boston's a fantastic place.
Boston, Chicago's got to be in that
And
category.
and in a place like Boston too, and considering all the winning they've done as a whole throughout all their sports, it's always one team kind of outdoing another. I truly think it is a Red Sox town first, just because of the history of it. But man, the Patriots have been good to that city.
Yeah, how can you?
know,
and
it's
look,
like-
and if you're going to live in one of those cities to actually have some fun, so Chicago and Boston, and depending on the seasons, you can see which team is doing better than the others. But if you live in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
I think you're just angry all the time.
Yeah, it could be.
Hall of Famer Alex, who tweets in all the time. How happy! So he likes all Philadelphia teams, and his favorite football team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Makes no sense.
That's just drinking every day. Just drink to make it good. You're watching and listening to on podcasts, courtesy of www.rawmike.richards.com. It is show number 2, courtesy of our friends at Henry's. It is Canada's camera store. Also, our good friends at Avi Studio, who, of course, done the excellent work on the website as well. We are going to be adding to that now. So now that we're sort of up and running, nothing has really burst into flames. That's what we're trying to do here. And, of course, all sort of directed by Eggplant and their facilities. As I said, this is one of 3 studios that we'll use when we eventually get going. You'll notice today much sharper camera work. Don't you think, Russell, today? This was you got a 3-shot, as they like to say in your business.
Yes, and now
Got some beeping over here too.
GoPro's just died, so I'll
And the GoPro has just died. What shot was that, Dave's?
both of these.
Both of them died at the same
Yeah.
time, so now it's just me. Here,
Dave's no longer here. You can hear me, but you can't see me.
for Star Trek fans. Well, he must have been transported. Yeah, that's what happened. We're thrilled to bring this to you. And as I said, as we move this along, we will also show you how I'm sure cameras eventually don't die. And we will add to the website. We're looking to put some archive material. And I'll be honest, it's some camera work that happened beforehand a long time ago that I know a lot of people have not seen because it was not allowed to make it to television. I guess some people were very picky about, well, I don't know how to put it. It's sort of a love scene between myself and Mike Morielli. I know it sounded awkward even just to say it,
Yeah.
but
I was gonna say you came up with that
yeah,
one, eh?
Yeah, well, when it was shot, trust me, if Ron Lancaster had seen what was going on that sideline, we were all dead. And I don't care how old he was. I still a little afraid of him. He had a little bit of an edge in those later years. So we're going to do that. And again, we'll get into conversations of those that are going to join us. We appreciate the fake champagne sent by Doug Gilmore yesterday for us at 11.
When's he coming in?
Next week. Looks
Oh,
like,
good.
Next
Okay.
week, yeah.
Good
so
stuff.
Of the people that we are going to track down, he'll be one of them. And I don't know if he bets a lot. We should ask him. So who are you betting on?
Yeah, who you like?
Yeah. Where are you putting all that money? So we'll take a look at that. And also, when it comes to basketball, if we're going to talk about the Raptors, are we having that conversation by the end of this week? Most people think that after the game last night that it's all put to bed. But I would say that if we're talking historically about certain teams, I mean, certainly the Washington Capitals take a big enough pounding when it comes to how they do in the playoffs. For the Raptors, Game 6s have not been particularly great. I just think that when Norman Powell, and look, he's full marks for the outstanding game that he had last night. If you're the Toronto Raptors, your best player is not DeMar DeRozan. And you've got Kyle Lowry, who's lying on the floor because of a back issue that's serious enough that it affects his sleeping. And, of course, it affects him even sitting on the bench. In the physical play of the NBA that just is amplified when we start talking about April and May, I just don't know how far you go because I don't think it's even fair. And they have been starting at Norm Powell to think that he's going to take them all the way through because at some point, maybe this year more than other years, this might be a little more open. There are years where you take a look at Golden State, and maybe you're doing the same thing this year. But Cleveland, because it just hasn't been literally the clean sweep that they had the year beforehand, I just don't know why I pencil them in necessarily to winning the NBA championship. That's a big jump from where they are right now.
That's a massive jump. Now, because of how they have struggled, and let's just say the Raptors go on to advance. Is how tight is that second round series? Because I got a feeling it's a little more tight than last year. Even though last year, and a lot of people forget this, last year's was a 6-game series. So how tight is it this year?
For the Raps, and the weirdness that the East was. Why isn't Chicago? That's the question I want to ask. Why aren't the Bulls better in the regular season? If they can beat the teams they can beat, how do they end up being a bubble team? Like, it's really quite annoying. Like, if you're a Bulls fan, I imagine that you live a life just filled full of anger, because it's who they lose to and who they actually beat is almost upside down.
Yeah. Because if you looked at it, because Raptor fans did not want to get into a scenario where the Bulls were the first round opponents. Because I'm sorry, the Raptors' history against the Bulls, especially in the last couple of years, is not very good. And a lot of people would sit there and say, you know what, the Bulls are going to win that series. It's almost like what the Charlotte Hornets used to do to the Chicago, what the Charlotte Hornets used to do with the Toronto Raptors as well. It was one of those scenarios where, you know what, no matter what happens, the Hornets are winning this game, and you know, that's some of the quirks of the NBA and how it actually works. But man, you know, I'm curious to see what the Bulls actually do at the end when everything finishes off, and can an 8 upset a number 1?
Well, you know, some of the anger sometimes, and I get it. To me, when someone says they hate somebody or they don't like someone, if there's not, you know, certain issues where they did something to you personally, I don't get that wrapped up in it. So when Kevin Durant goes from the Thunder to Golden State, people were outraged. How can this be? What are you doing? I'm going, what do you mean, what is he doing? He's going from Oklahoma City. We talked about Oklahoma yesterday. And it wasn't giblets I was trying to think of that was on that menu. It was gizzards. Gizzards is on a menu in Oklahoma as a food choice, as a side dish. Look up gizzards. You'll only do it once. And so there, you've got Kevin Durant going to, number one, the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Not going to suck. Playing with, I don't know, I wrote it down the other day, a team that looked like they were pretty good with a couple of stars on it. Why would you, why is this so offensive for people? To me, it seemed kind of an obvious thing to do. Now, they talked about still, you know, when we talk about the amount of monies and the actual commerce for an athlete in a given town, how much they can make, that he actually did pretty damn good for still being in Oklahoma City. But you're saying you're going to the West Coast now? I mean, again, it's not L.A., but you're still West Coast.
It's Oakland, yeah.
It's you know, you're still going to do fine and win a championship. How can you not think that was not a great move by him? If it's me, I don't even know what I'm thinking about.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. And now at the end of this year, he'll also have a chance to opt out and go somewhere else if he wants to, or if he wants to sign that long-term contract somewhere else because of what he's done with his status in Golden State. Today's games, quickly, I wanted to get to this too.
Yeah.
Today's games, 3 of them on the docket, Utah and the Clippers, the Thunder and the Rockets, but that Memphis series that we were talking about earlier, that series is tied at 2. It's back in San Antonio, and the Spurs are favored by 10 points.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
Does that make any sense?
No, because that's the NBA. It's like you either win or lose by these outrageous points. The consistency night to night is just very, very different. As again, it's hard to make a comparison to NBA basketball, especially in the playoffs, but even as a whole, to the ball that was played previous when they were either playing in Europe or they're playing NCAA basketball. The games don't tend to look like that. Can a team get hot and go on a run? I guess if you want to go in and say that at some point that looking at you know, Duke, or if you're taking a look at North Carolina, can they get run on by a smaller school on a given night? Yeah, and for both of those schools, actually, this past year, it does happen. But on a nightly basis where you're playing those similar teams, and in this case, the same team, when you're beating them by 40 points, I just don't know how you go in and have like a 50-point turnaround where you might lose by 10. I just don't know.
It makes no sense.
I have no other comparison for another sport that actually would do that. I don't get that. So we'll see what happens with Memphis. And there's another place. Do you want to play in Memphis? Is it Memphis? I mean,
I've been to Memphis once.
I've been to Memphis.
Yeah.
And I
good barbecue.
Oh, the ribs, you know, and I guess you got to. It was Corky's. Corky's. So Corky's is almost right across from Graceland, and they do, and it's wet. Right, so either the wet or the dry ribs.
Or the dry ribs, yeah.
But I'm a sauce guy.
I love sauce.
Like, you know, I'm not putting down if you just like a rub. I'm just saying that I'm a sauce guy. So Memphis, though, but it's not. That is also another economically depressed area. I don't know how excited or what kind of monies I think I'm going if I'm an athlete and I go to Memphis. Just like Nashville. I don't know how great it is in Nashville. Although, you know, when we talked earlier about some of the hockey series, I don't know how engaging it is for people to watch a Nashville team, because if you're looking at Nashville, St. Louis, if you think that thing's going to be a barn burner, I don't think it is. And I think if you're looking at a series where you're going to see, as we said earlier on, kind of take the under, that will be that kind of series. I don't know how engaging necessarily. And I think geographically, Americans sometimes, it gets that way, in particular with hockey. Other sports, if you're watching March Madness, it doesn't matter what school's in there. The ratings south of the border are just massive. But if we start getting into hockey talk, if it's not a Pittsburgh, Washington, if you're not talking about a New York, and even to a degree on the West Coast, how West Coast centric is the interest in the sport fan, if you want to put it that way, of the Anaheim Ducks? I got to think it's relatively limited.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like if you're in California right now, what is on your mind? What sport are you thinking about the most right now? If you're in California on the West Coast, what is the sport you're thinking about?
Well, they're probably looking forward to this NFL draft just because there's a lot of West Coast players, right? That's probably right up there.
Because you have a team back in Los Angeles again.
Yeah, exactly. You're looking at what the Dodgers have to offer because it is the Dodgers. And for the most part, it's
like the Angels have really burned their fan base over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they have, and they've and plus it's also stuck in Anaheim, even though they want to call themselves the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim or however they want to do it this time.
Could you have a shittier name than that?
That's terrible.
Because even the players would go, "I'm sorry, what are we called?" We're
See,
not just
and
the
you know what? And if you're living in Anaheim and you're going to see the Los Angeles Angels, wouldn't I mean, at one time they were called the Anaheim Angels. A time before that, which is my favorite name, they were called the California Angels.
Yeah.
That's the team name I like best for that organization. But I don't get the Los Angeles part of it where it's like, like if Hamilton gets a NHL franchise one day, they're going to call themselves Toronto? No.
Yeah. And
Are they, you know what I mean? Because that's about the same sort of distance.
It is.
About an hour and a bit.
Just, and to hide what? The fact that you're from Hamilton or something?
Yeah, who cares?
No.
No, you call it where you are.
Well, that's why I think anytime you remove something from a fan base, and the experiment here where they tried to bring the Buffalo Bills up to the building in Toronto, the Rogers Center, those games were, and I felt bad for the Bills. I felt bad for the Bills. I felt bad for the Buffalo fan base that has spent the money, sat in the snow. I mean, that is your team. That is your town. And you have almost neither of those things when they came up to Toronto. And it always looked, I don't know if it's just the camera work or whatever, why did it always look so dark? It looked like one of those weird, not a Champions, like a Europa League game where it's Ludogorets. Sorry, I'm just picking on that name, against Shakhtar. And look, maybe both of them. Maybe I'm not trying to offend these fan bases, but it doesn't look like Wembley Stadium. It doesn't look like I'm in Anfield. It looks like there's like sometimes in Italy, a lot of flares going off, a lot of smoke.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
European soccer in general, right?
And look, by the way, if you're fans of Roma and some of those other places that are shooting flares onto the field, usually at their own goalkeeper, what is the thought process in that? What do you think mentally is going on when you go, hey, you know what they're really going to love? If I take this rocket at the Buffon and I just let it fly.
Hey, Gigi.
Yeah. I'm going to let some smoke everywhere. We can't hear. Like they've had to put like hair out on the fire on their head, like hair on fire. I'm looking, hey, did you see that? I said it's a hair. Like, I don't understand that culture. Like, do you want to bang on the drums? I know there's names for it in soccer. That's fine. I just don't get the flair thing. Rioting? Sure, I get.
Yeah, how do you get the flare thing in the actual building?
Well, it's like,
I mean, do they not? Do they just let everybody race in like it's rush seating?
It's like, we're looking for, hey, no bringing your own booze. What about this ARC 270K rocket? No, it's a flare. It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't. Yeah, that's the part of. I think for North Americans, the North Americans don't get that part at all. Why are they trying to kill their own players with fire? Because when you see it and the flags are waving and all, but that's the atmosphere in the Rogers Center. You could hear the hum. You could hear the hum of the, I guess, air conditioning.
Yep.
You'd see the darkness of whatever was going on.
It was really bad in Montreal when the Expos were around. Last couple of years of the Expos, you'd hear the It's like, really? You can't do just play music over it.
You could hear the guy spitting. That's a bad sign. We had on one of the shows, I had someone on called the Expos Super Babe.
Okay. Never heard of this particular guest.
Yeah, she got really mad.
She did.
I said, well, don't get mad at me. There's no Expos team, and you call yourself the Expos Super Babe. Maybe should have thought ahead. That maybe you're going to have to change that name. Okay, so look, we're going to close this off here for show number 2 today. And as I said, tomorrow, expect a couple of interesting little twists. We're going to load some archive material onto the website today. You're going to love it. You'll see clips of it tomorrow.
You want to go do karate in the garage? Yup.
That's actually what we're doing after, too.
Yeah, we are going to do some karate moves. So look forward to that. Also, you'll see clips of it on the show tomorrow, and expect guests as they file through to be on rawmickrichards.com. Therefore, we thank Henry's, the Canadian camera store. They did a fantastic job today. It was a 3-shot. Unfortunately, now it's down to 1. Also, Abbey Studios and our good friends at Eggplant Pictures, an excellent job as always. See you later. We'll be back for show number 3.